But again, this gets to the Democratic solutions have never been to directly provide. It's always been a subsidy to a middleman. But what happens is when the government promises endless funds to insurance companies or private universities, is it frustrating that the thing that you fought for your whole career, Democrats are the ones who run away from scared? And he's embraced some of it.
Yeah. Bernie Sanders recently stopped by Jon Stewart's show, but after the tough back and forth he faced during the interview, it's hard to believe he'll want to come back anytime soon, if he ever does.
When the government promises endless funds to insurance companies or private universities without any cost controls, and Trump seems to understand this, prices rise far beyond the rate of inflation.
But Stewart pushed Sanders into a spot where he seemed to admit that socialism has serious problems and could make America worse than it already is. He pointed to examples like college tuition, prescription drugs, and the healthcare system to make that argument.
And we've seen it in tuition, and we've seen it in pharmaceutical, and we've seen it in healthcare.
If you enjoy bold political commentary that doesn't hold back, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Now, let's jump right into it. But before we do, take a look at this clip of Bernie Sanders explaining why he believes open borders can be dangerous and why he says tariffs are needed to help protect America's manufacturing industry.
Does that change the calculus now for Democrats to govern with more balls?
I think it does. I mean, they've seen a boldness on the part of Trump using his power in a way that we have never seen before.
So that's where the contradiction becomes clear. Ideas that Bernie Sanders openly supported about 10 years ago are now often described by some people as far-right or even authoritarian. Back in 2015, and even earlier in 2008, Sanders spoke against completely open borders and supported tariffs as a way to protect American workers. At the time, those views weren't treated as controversial. They were presented as practical economic policies meant to protect jobs and keep important industries strong. So what changed? The policies themselves didn't suddenly become different. The biggest change came when Donald Trump became a major political figure and started pushing many of those same ideas. As his influence grew, the way those positions were talked about changed too. Views that had once been seen as reasonable or even mainstream were suddenly called extreme. That leads to a bigger question. Was the debate really about the policies, or was it mostly about who was promoting them? That's exactly why Bernie Sanders was put on the spot when Jon Stewart brought up the positions Sanders himself had supported years earlier.
Open borders? That's a Koch brothers proposal. The idea, of course, I mean, that's a right-wing proposal which says essentially there is no United States.
But it would make a lot of the global poor richer, wouldn't it?
And it'd make everybody in America poor. Then you're doing away with the concept of a nation state. And I don't think there's any country in the world which believes in that.
Further, what they have said is that we need to not worry about manufacturing in America because what we should establish is a policy of unfettered free trade. We don't need tariffs. What we need is to allow corporate America the freedom to throw American workers out on the street. People who are making 15, 20, 25 bucks an hour, healthcare, pensions, throw them out on the street because somehow, Madam President, we are going to create wealth in America.
No, and we all know Donald Trump is not a socialist president, so there's no reason to spend more time arguing that point. What he has done is strongly support ideas that are usually linked to the political right. He has said the government's main job is to create a stable, business-friendly environment where companies can grow, invest, and hire more workers. The basic idea is straightforward. When businesses do well, they create more jobs, and that helps the economy grow overall.
He's the most socialist president of my lifetime. Taking a percentage of companies to do business, that's a Bernie Sanders idea.
Yeah.
The left, on the other hand, usually focuses more on redistribution, using government programs to shift resources from wealthier people toward those who need more support. In theory, the government is supposed to work for the benefit of the people. However, critics often bring up what they believe happened during Joe Biden's time in office, when figures like Nancy Pelosi faced criticism over stock trading, creating questions about whether leaders in Washington were focused on the right priorities and whether there was enough accountability. And this is the moment when Jon Stewart pushes Bernie Sanders to acknowledge the problems critics see with socialism.
Is it frustrating that the thing that you fought for your whole career, Democrats are the ones who run away from scared, and he's embraced some of it?
Yeah.
Jon Stewart brought up the issue of why socialism often faces challenges when put into practice. Even Bernie Sanders seemed to agree with some of the points being made. It raises a difficult question. Why give more power and resources to government systems that critics say already have problems with transparency and accountability? During Joe Biden's presidency, taxes became a major topic of discussion, but many critics continued asking what clear results people were actually seeing. California is often brought up as an example in this argument. Even with some of the highest tax rates in the nation, the state still deals with serious problems like increasing homelessness, repeated wildfire emergencies, and large companies leaving for places they believe offer better conditions for business. For many people watching this debate, it leads to a larger question. If higher taxes are supposed to create better living conditions, why do these same issues continue, and in some cases, become even worse over time?
But what happens is, when the government promises endless funds to insurance companies or private universities without any cost controls, and Trump seems to understand this, prices rise far beyond the rate of inflation. And we've seen it in tuition, and we've seen it in pharmaceutical, and we've seen it in healthcare.
Interesting moment when Jon Stewart challenges Bernie Sanders and the Democratic National Committee over what some critics call Trump derangement syndrome. The phrase itself is controversial, but Stewart's argument seems to focus on the idea that opposition to Donald Trump can sometimes go too far, becoming so intense that it gets in the way of thoughtful discussion or fair criticism. What makes the situation even more interesting is that Stewart has also been known for strongly criticizing Trump himself in the past. He has had plenty of moments where he pushed back hard against him. But in this case, he appears to be making a different point, suggesting that some members of the party may be focusing so much on outrage that it could actually hurt their own message. It highlights a growing debate in politics, where even people who disagree with Trump are starting to ask whether nonstop opposition is truly helping their side or slowly working against it.
What I find is there is a gag reflex from, and I think both parties have it, a gag reflex on Robert Kennedy says, ultra-processed foods are killing Americans. And I'm like, yeah.
That's right.
God awful. That's got to change. But if you were to say that, boy, are you just dogpiled. How can you agree with Robert Kennedy Jr. on anything? He's this and that. And Elon Musk says we've got waste and inefficiency in the government. And we're like, yeah, we've been yelling about that for years. And as soon as you do that, how can you? How dare you? It's really interesting.
And in a revealing moment, Jon Stewart pushes Bernie Sanders to recognize a point that many critics have made for years. Democrats can sometimes make simple problems far more complicated than they need to be. The issue isn't always about what they are trying to achieve. It is often about how they go about doing it. Multiple layers of government bureaucracy can build up, turning basic projects into long, frustrating processes filled with paperwork, approvals, and countless rules. By the time anything moves forward, people have already had to work through a confusing maze of regulations that slows everything down. And the surprising part is that all those delays and extra administrative costs can sometimes end up making the final price much higher than expected. Instead of creating a more effective system, critics argue it can lead to oversized structures that waste resources and leave people frustrated. It brings up an important question. When does government stop focusing on solving problems and start creating new ones?
What they end up doing is coming up with very complicated proposals. You make $48,964.
Yes!
You will get this thing. You make $1 more, you finish the blah, blah, blah.
Bernie Sanders' goal of creating a better education system and providing quality health care is something that many people support, no matter their political views. The main debate is not about the goals themselves, but about the best way to achieve them. Supporting improved results does not automatically mean socialism is the best answer. History shows that some countries have tried highly centralized government-run systems and later faced issues like slow progress, lower quality, or economic problems. Because of these examples, critics argue that increasing government control is not always the perfect solution and can sometimes lead to more challenges instead of solving current ones. The United States has a different economic system, a strong culture of innovation, and a powerful private sector that many believe should be improved and used rather than pushed aside. They argue that the better focus should be on realistic reforms that expand access and improve quality while maintaining efficiency and long-term success.
Should we have the best quality education in the world from childcare to graduate school? Yes, we should.
It's a problem with spending. As I have mentioned before, the bigger question is what the government has actually done with the money it has already taken in. Critics argue that too much of that revenue goes toward wasteful projects, large military spending, infrastructure plans that take years to finish, and government programs that do not produce clear results. Even people outside regular political circles have expressed similar concerns. On his show, Bill Maher talked openly about paying a large portion of his income in taxes, while feeling like he has not seen major improvements, especially in California. That frustration represents a bigger concern among many taxpayers who believe that paying more should lead to noticeable changes, such as stronger infrastructure, safer neighborhoods, and better public services. Instead, they continue seeing ongoing problems and a lack of accountability, which strengthens the argument that the way money is managed matters more than simply collecting more of it.
And you got to say to them, sorry, guys, $1 billion is enough. You ain't going to have 200 billion or 300 billion. Try to survive on $1 billion. You're going to start paying your fair share of taxes.
Now, this is a notable moment from Bernie Sanders, as he appears to recognize Donald Trump's willingness to take strong and direct action on issues where many believe the Democratic Party has been more hesitant. When longtime critics begin admitting that certain actions have produced results, it shows that some outcomes can become difficult to completely ignore. For years, Trump faced heavy criticism from opponents, with some even describing him as authoritarian or using similar labels. Those attacks were frequent, intense, and repeated across political discussions. However, moments like this create a different kind of conversation where actual results, or what some people see as results, begin influencing the way policies are viewed. Instead of simply rejecting everything, there can be a move toward a more cautious acknowledgement. It shows how political views can change when certain decisions start creating effects that connect with voters. Ideas that were once strongly criticized can later be looked at differently as people focus more on practical results and changing priorities.
Does that change the calculus now for Democrats to govern with more balls?
I think it does. I mean, they've seen a boldness on the part of Trump using his power.
Interesting times, for sure, when Jon Stewart and Bernie Sanders suggest that Democrats might have something to learn from Donald Trump's methods. It shows a noticeable change in the conversation. These are not people who have traditionally supported the other side. They have spent years being strong voices from the opposite political camp. So even a small acknowledgement from them can stand out. The main idea is straightforward. If a system is not producing results, then it is not doing its job. Changing the wording, creating better explanations, or defending it with complicated arguments does not change what people are seeing. In the end, policies are judged by what they actually achieve, not just by the goals behind them or the people supporting them. Moments like this reflect a wider frustration with ideas that do not seem to create real improvements. Once the political noise is removed, one thing becomes clear: results matter. And when something works, even critics may have to recognize it.
So I hope it awakens Democrats to understand.
You want Luke Skywalker to look at Darth and go, I could do that. I could just nicer. Why are you able to make these cases so easily and talk like a normal human being? And these other, I mean, that's part of the problem in the Democratic Party. Sometimes you listen to them and you can almost see the consultant behind their eye going, don't frame it like that. Talk like a person.
In the end, Jon Stewart managed to push Bernie Sanders into facing the real-world challenges of his socialist ideas, making him consider the possible problems and unexpected results that could come if those policies were put into action. Stewart's questions were not just for debate. They showed how some of Sanders' proposals may sound appealing in theory, but could become extremely difficult to carry out in reality. Beyond discussing policies, Stewart also made a comparison with former President Trump, leading Sanders to recognize that Trump often presents ideas that seem more practical and shows the confidence and determination needed to put them into action. According to Stewart's argument, this is something Democrats have struggled to show consistently. By the end of the discussion, Sanders was left facing the difference between having big ideas and actually making them work, along with the need for Democratic leaders to combine their goals with the confidence and ability needed to create real change. With that, we bring today's video to a close. If you enjoyed watching, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more content like this. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.